So I promised we would talk about Lou Smit because he's a huge part of this case. So we're going to talk about him next. So who is he? So Detective Lou Smit and the intruder theory. He's the one that came up with the intruder theory. He was a retired homicide detective from Colorado Springs Police Department. He was brought in as a consultant from the Boulder police. The DA. He had a distinguished career in law enforcement with a particular focus on homicide investigations. He was once in the Air Force. We know that about him. And he joined the Colorado Springs Police in 1972. At the time of the Ramsey murder, Smit had solved more than 200 homicides. He was considered like the Mac Daddy of them all detectives. He was highly respected. In fact, to the point where like the Boulder DA and police department was very much like, oh, we'll just get this guy. Of course, he's going to agree with us that it's Patsy and John, right? And he even said himself, he walked into it fully thinking that it was John and Patsy. Okay.
Wow. So that just shows you that the media was practically, or at least the people on the inside, the cops were pointing the finger towards them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was right away. So everyone, including him, thought that. He had a journal and he dictated his notes into a recorder every single day. His daughter, because he's not alive anymore, he passed away, but his daughter later stated that within days of investigating, Smit said, something is not right. Here, I see evidence of an intruder. Convinced that the perpetrator entered the home through a basement window, he proved it was possible by climbing into it and out of the window himself. He believed the killer used a stun gun on JonBenet, pointing to marks that were on her body as evidence. Okay. So JonBenet's attacker brought with him, he also said that JonBenet's attacker brought with him duct tape, cord, and the stun gun as part of a kidnap kit, and then left with that evidence after he was done. He pointed to DNA collected from under her fingernails and on her underwear that was ruled by a lab report from Colorado Bureau of Investigation to be foreign and male, excluding the parents and the 9-year-old brother, who were home at the time. This put him at odds with Boulder police, who seemed dead set on their theory that it was the Ramseys, and they got really upset after that, and all of a sudden went from saying Smit was this highly regarded detective to being this senile old man looking for attention and didn't know what he was talking about.
Of course.
So he had to fight to present evidence to a grand jury looking into JonBenet's murder, but was ignored and dismissed. He eventually resigned from the case after 18 months when he saw that they had their own agenda and would not consider the evidence that he was finding.
That
Boulder
must be
police,
so frustrating.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do have some footage on him that I want to play right now, just so you can get, in case anybody hasn't seen. He's actually actively displaying some of his findings and how he came across his decision that it was an intruder. Okay, so we're going to do that.
Okay.
Coming in that window, and often a burglar or an intruder,
let me rewind.
if they find a safe way in.
Okay.
Here we go. We'll start from here.
Investigation. He was certain the killer would have left clues. It was just a matter of finding them.
When you're not in on a crime scene, you do miss out on quite a bit of the feelings that you get during the initial investigation. That's where photographs really do come in. The Boulder Police Department did take great photographs. I did spend a great deal of time inspecting each and every one of those photographs, and they did tell me a story.
Much of the house had been disturbed by friends who had gone to help the Ramseys. Because of this, Smit found one police photograph taken in the basement disturbing.
JonBenet's body was right behind that door when this photograph was taken. If that door would have been opened at that time, this case would have taken an entirely different turn. Everyone in the house would have been cleared out. Nothing would have been disturbed.
Smit found other early photographs that also worried him.
This photograph does show a lot of snow around the house.
Wait, can I say
and
something?
if you've seen this, your first...
Yeah.
I don't understand. What does he mean by if that door was open, this case would be totally different?
So the fact that nobody went down there and cleared that, like the actual police, when they showed up, they did not go in that door. In fact, I had heard at one point that one of them said the door was jammed. And then when I heard another account saying that there was like some sort of latch on it and they couldn't undo it. So if they had gone in there in the first place, then there would not have been all these people roaming around in the house. They would have they would have been the ones to find her. The duct tape wouldn't have been ripped off and all that.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Perception would be that a person who entered that house would have to leave some footprints in the snow. Now look at this photograph. The sidewalks are completely clear of snow. This is another angle. You not only don't see snow on the walkway area, but take a look at even at this table. There's no snow. There's no snow on the chair. Another rather significant photograph taken from the alley. A person approaching this house from the alley would leave no footprints around the house.
Smit was surprised at the lack of snow, but says, of course, the fact someone could have reached the house after all did not mean anyone had. But it did mean Smit had to look for evidence of an intruder which might have been missed.
If an intruder had spent any time at all checking out the house, he would have noticed that on various doors and windows there was a sticker indicating that the house was alarmed. On a lot of these older houses, the windows leading into the basement are not alarmed. And that drew my attention to this window on the north side of the house. It's a small window leading into the basement. When we inspected the photographs, we did see something very interesting.
Smit found the dust on the window frame had been disturbed. He also found what he thought were finger marks. He concluded that someone may have tried to open this window. Yet an interior photograph showed it remained locked and undisturbed. If there was an attempt, it had failed. However, another photograph, taken in the basement, suggested a second attempt may have succeeded.
Now this is a photograph that really caught my eye, because the window was wide open. But what also caught my attention was a mark on the wall leading right directly from this open window down to the floor. When I first seen that photograph, I thought, looks like somebody could have got in here.
That open basement window was at the side of the house, underneath an unlocked metal grille. According to Smit, if an intruder had got in this way, there would be evidence here on the outside as well as on the inside.
And that's exactly what the photograph showed me.
There was a great deal of foliage which was on the front of the grate, and had actually been pinched under the leading edge of that grate. Even when you pick the grate up, you can see very clearly that there was green foliage right on the plate that the grate rested upon. Also, in looking into the window well, the window in the center, the one that had been opened, had a great deal of disturbance in front of that particular area of the window.
Yeah, look at that.
You can also see what appears to be finger marks on the window frame itself.
All this convinced Smit an intruder could easily have got in this way.
You know, it's been said that only a midget can get down into this grate. Well, I'm no midget, and I'll show you how easily it can be done. It really wasn't that difficult coming in that window. And often, a burglar or an intruder, if they find a safe way in, they also figure it'll be a safe way out. And if you remember, there was a suitcase that was right underneath this window. And if he figures that he has to go out this window, he may think that it would be much easier if there was something to stand on. And on top of this suitcase was a very small, tiny, pea-sized piece of glass, which may have been picked up by a person's shoe, and a faint impression of possibly a footprint on the suitcase. And that suggests very strongly to me that perhaps someone did stand on that suitcase at one point, perhaps to go out the window, or perhaps just to test to see if he could go out that window.
Now, I can't say for sure if an intruder went through that window. But also, we cannot just disregard it and say that he did not come through that window.
Right.
Smit
Yeah,
knew that
so
the local
she-
police had
she
said
made
they'd found no
Savitha made a note about those basement windows. Oh my gosh. Like those basement windows, they freak me out. Freak me out. Don't you agree?
Why? Why they freak you
Because
out?
it feels like just knowing that those windows are down there and somebody can easily go down into that, pick up that grate and go down in there. It's just scary, you know, and they left things unlocked.
Just lock it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I get, yeah, but how about just kick it in, break it and climb right through the window too.
But that's any basement window.
Yeah. Intruder might be even hiding all along. It was right. Well,
Yeah.
that is my theory, that somebody was in
Yeah.
there for a long time, hours, you know. But yeah, okay, let's play some more.
evidence of an intruder. Although his evidence so far was inconclusive, he felt it should at least be kept in mind. The Boulder police declined to take part in this program, but it's clear they rejected Smit's advice. Lead Detective Steve Thomas later publicly described the idea of an intruder as far-fetched and ridiculous.
That's just them.
Ignoring
being
Smith's
embarrassed
advice, police
Yeah.
set out to increase the already intense media pressure on the Ramseys. Lacking evidence to justify any arrests, they hoped this might force a confession.
All right. So that's that. Okay. So about the video, you can clearly see fingerprints. You can clearly see that it was disturbed. There are people saying that they found some cobwebs that were not disturbed, so they think there's no way that anybody went in there. Well, there were cobwebs also. There's some that are not disturbed, and there are some that fell down into the basement, and they were loose and kind of like floating around on the floor. So
I mean, the fact that the vines or the grass or the foliage was underneath the grate is big to me, because it doesn't grow that way. It doesn't sneak underneath and just,
yeah,
it was clearly flattened.
right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
And here's another thing. They do try to say that he's some old man that's even used the word senile at one point, that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He clearly does not appear not cognitive. He can speak for himself well. I mean, he's all there. You can see it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I agree.
So
It's just them trying to disregard what he says and
Right.
trying to rationale that.